Alright guys, making this video, you can see I made my template. I got some scribbles on there, kind of just ideas for shapes. That's actually vinyl sheeting for like a bathroom. When I did this bathroom, I ended up doing tile walls, so I had this left over, and I'm actually going to get to use it for the car. It's pretty thin, lightweight. I think I'll be able to fiberglass on it. What's going on, Finn? Say hi. Yeah, there's a scale, wheels. I was weighing stuff out. This is also where I keep parts. That bathroom still doesn't have a door. I still got to do that. That's going to be a spring project. The fact I got the bathroom working and you know, running and good time frame is amazing. So either way, I'm going to cut this, and then I'm going to figure out what I want to do for a shape. I bought some foam, and then I think we actually still got like wedding stuff, like these rings. Don't worry about the flowers, I'll pick them off, but these are like foam rings I can cut up and do some shapes with. So wife said I could use them, so there we go. We're repurposing a lot of crap here. So I'm gonna get to it, set it up in here, and then when we're ready to fiberglass, we're gonna do that outside. But I gotta fire up the heater. It's actually pretty warm out today, 50 degrees, but as any of you know, once the concrete is frozen, it's a big ice box. So the garage is actually still about 35 degrees from overnight, and outside it's about 50 degrees. It's really nice, but garage should warm up real good, and we'll be able to do some fiberglass work today. Kind of done with the metal work, and then maybe later I will attack my engine harness. I got boxed up, so we're gonna have to digest this. I marked off wires knowing that I was going to do this. That's for the wipers. This is clearly cut for something. We'll probably remove that because I don't know what it's for and we don't need it. So that's going to be my thing on this, is if I don't know what it's for and I don't need it, I won't need it. You can clearly see the headlight harness is in here too. But there's also like this weird diagnostic port crap. Maybe somebody can clue me in on this. Like that comes from the harness. Like, this is annoying. There's no need for this shit. But I guess this is where you tested circuits, because that's all I can figure this out to be. I'm not an old mechanic. I just happen to work on old cars. But you got a bunch of terminals in here. Clearly the grease is dried up and it's kind of nasty in there. But I have to figure out what to do with what. And that's going to be one of the things to repair this harness and make this really nice for the car. Because these have been soldered up and stretched out because there was a Pontiac, then they went to a Buick. And what's going on, Finn? What are you scoping out? So I'm going to let you guys go. I'm going to get to making this piece, and then I'll get you guys all filled in on what I ended up doing, how we did it, and then we'll start doing some fiberglass. Alright guys, so I got the shape I kind of want. And you got to keep in mind, we're going to be putting cloth over this hump here. And this is going to be our mounting lip. I used tape to kind of give me a softer edge than the hard 90 degree we had. Freaking phone keeps on zooming, but God damn you, focus. So whatever falls in the center is going to fall in the center. Essentially, we're going to be we're going to be putting fiberglass resin over everything and laying our mat down and patting it down into the resin. If you guys can make brownies, you guys can mix up fiberglass resin. It's really easy, stupid simple. I'm not going to cover it. There's a million videos on that already. So this is what I came up with, and I'm going to go for it. I used some shoe goo. I really like shoe goo for stuff like this because it's super thick and goopy and dries fast. So I was able to get this kind of tacked down with shoe goo. You still see some goop there. It's already drying. And then I just used the tape to kind of fill in some voids here. And this is kind of going to be our general shape that we're going to have on the firewall. That way it's not just flat. We got something that kind of looks factory, like I mentioned in the other video, where you got humps and stuff like that. So, alright guys, I'm going to get to it. And I will show you guys once we got like a layer down what it looks like. Alright guys, I got my heater on. I got this on a piece of wood. You don't want this shit on the floor. At least the resin. It's hard to get it up once it's dry. And see, I'm noticing a couple things here as we're talking, and I want to catch them. So I'm going to walk over here. going to grab my old stir stick I mix my resin with. There's just a little spot there I got to push down. But all right, so this is my first layer. And I did a second layer over here, and fiberglass tends to stretch. This one had a fold in it, so I'm trying to get it to stick down just so that it becomes easier to lay over the top. And this is starting to dry. I got my heater in front of it. And so my first piece was like one big sheet. But you don't want to repetitively do all of your steps in big sheets because then they stretch out. So from here, we're going to cut a bunch of small strips. Strip, 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 strip. And we're going to do it in strips. That way it's easier to maintain the curvatures. And I did a pretty good job of getting everything to contour down. As you can see, I got old construction paper underneath it because the edges, I'm overlapping that vinyl sheeting. All that's going to get trimmed back to the edge of the vinyl, but I need something that'll rip off. So that's where that construction paper really helps. You guys can use wax paper or anything. But I'm just using a piece of scrap wood. I did have it on my bench here. We're a little bit tight for room for something like this, but just enough I got just enough room where I can work. And so this is already starting to set up pretty good. This is my first layer, and I did a second layer like around here. And that's where that nasty little fold is. But on the next, I'm going to keep on pressing it down in hopes that it tacks up with the rest of it. If not, no big deal. The next layer will cover it. And you can see right there where I have an overlapping layer on this corner. But I try to use as much as I could. And I pretty much did as much as I could with the resin that I mixed up, which I only mixed up about 12 ounces. Or no, 14 ounces. The can is 28. Luckily I have more cans in the basement. I got some hardener, that extra hardener. So we're probably going to end up doing about 3 layers on this, all said and done. But I'm trying to work fast here. So I got the heater in front of it. We're just pushing down little areas where it wants to lift up. Especially like right here, you could tell that little area right there. The resin didn't quite seep through the glass mat. It looked like it did earlier, but you're going to get that. And that's where, doing multiple layers helps. So right now, this is our first layer, and we're going to let it be. We're going to let it dry. You can see the edges here kind of peeled away, but it's fine because once this hardens up, if we make this thick enough, we can, in theory, rip everything out from underneath, but that's not the way I'm making it. So right now I'm just kind of going back and touching it up. As the fiberglass gets hot through the drying process, it moves around and about. And it's easy. I laid my cloth down after I put resin all over the surfaces. I dabbed them down with a foam brush. And then I just patted down my mat. And I don't know if viewers out there have done this, but there you go. We'll follow up once we're done with the last coat. And I think this will be a really good one to do some finish work, a little Bondo work, show you guys how to do that and paint and stuff. So this will be a cool little neat project that for me, this kind of evolved from what I really wanted to do. But hey, it's cheap enough. I have like 12 bucks into this. So gives you guys an idea for your own AC Delete. That way it doesn't look plain Jane piece of flat sheet metal that looks like shit. A little bit of work, a couple bucks, and you can do something like this. So, all right, guys, signing off here for now. All right, guys, I'm on layer number 2. As you can tell, it's looking a lot smoother. It's starting to look like something. The inside of this is going to be sunken, and I really don't care. The whole purpose is to have some definition, kind of like there, you got dips and stuff. I didn't want something totally flat, so I kind of actually really like the fact that we got a little dip in there. But as you can see, I used a piece of tape to take care of that little fold I mentioned in the other video, and I had to keep constantly tapping it so that it would dry, and it hardened up. And I caught the second layer right as the first layer was almost done drying. So what happens is through the drying process, you get a chemical reaction that creates heat. So I'm trying to use the heat from that drying process to dry this out. I might end up with a couple of bubbles here and there because as the solvents push through, it might push a bubble through the top layer, but it'll be all right. This is going to need a little cleanup. We're going to probably have to sand it, maybe do a little filler, smooth it out. But we're on layer number 2, and this the first layer that dried up was fairly solid. And considering we use that vinyl, it's going to be really nice. So I did my first layer was one big sheet. And the second layer, you can see more lines. I did a lot more layers to stiffen it up. And then I think my next layer is going to be one solid sheet, and that should do it to round out everything. But I'm really happy with how this is turning out. I'm not going to lie, this is probably the first time I've done fiberglass work like this. And it certainly is the first time that I've done fiberglass work since probably high school. I used to work on semi-trucks, and I was the bitch boy. I used to do oil changes, airline checks, brake lines, all that stuff. And I used to fix the noses when guys would smash them up. We used to pop rivet aluminum inserts and fiberglass the top. So that's about as much experience as I got with fiberglass. I don't really use a whole lot of this stuff in the collision repair industry, but some of the processes do overlap, and using the chemicals and all that stuff is pretty straightforward as far as the mixing ratio. So we'll follow it up on the last layer. Alright guys, I'm going to send you off with this last video for today. This is my second layer. It's pretty much all dried up. Still a little damp, but I'm going to let this dry a little bit more, and then I'm going to do my last coat. But you can see it's really starting to take shape. If you can envision, this whole line is going to get cut. We're going to sand it down, smooth it out, do a little bit of Bondo work, body filler. For those that, I usually call it body filler, but I have to call it Bondo so people understand what the fuck I'm talking about. So, I'm going to just smooth it out. Again, I said we're going to keep this dip here, so we're just going to smooth this out a little bit. And then this is all just going to get painted up real nice. The frame's going to get touched up. The whole goal is to really clean up the engine bay. Look a lot more appealing, not a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm really happy with how this is turning out. This vinyl sheet didn't warp a lot, because you got to keep in mind that fiberglass, as it's drying, creates heat, and it's going to want to warp. So which is why some of these edges tend to lift up as it dries. But this is why you got to constantly go back and dab it with your foam brush to get everything to stay down and pat it. So while I was letting that stuff dry, I was catching a buzz with the fumes. I'm soaking up my engine harness. I've been cleaning it for like the last half hour and getting like 40 years of caked on dielectric grease, and it's really starting to come around. I trimmed off some of the fat. Like these 3 wires go back to that diagnostic port. So I'm going to guess that these really aren't needed. I'm going to find out. Either way, I clipped them and they're color coded, so if I have to go back and actually use that diagnostic port, I will. But I don't think it's going to be needed. I still have to figure it out, but I went ahead here and I did what I needed to do. These are our wires, and the whole goal is to clean this up, be able to pull out the terminals and rewire this whole harness. I want to rewire this and do it absolutely right, tight. I want to clean up, declutter this engine bay, which is partially why I also went ahead and I did away with the AC box. And if I ever want to do something, I'm going to go ahead and declutter it that way. God, you can see the fumes. So when I say catching a buzz, guys, there you go. So, yeah, this is it, guys. This is, I actually, since we weren't able to weld, this was my goal. Start on the wiring harness, get this ready, do our AC delete, which is turning out really nice. And then next week we're going to weld and hopefully have everything set. And then onto the rear control arms and the diff. I'm really going to try to get that done this month. So, guys, keep following. I'm really starting to get sucked in by this project. The more I do, the more motivated I am, and that's usually how these things go. In the midst of things, you start to get drawn in, but you step back and you look and you get discouraged and you say, wow, I got all this work to do. But all it takes is coming out here and just doing something. And all I have is Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So I come out here those days and I really try to absolutely do as much as I can, no matter how small the job is. So, guys, things are starting to really move here. Thank you for following. Share, like, and subscribe. That means a lot to me. And thank you for those guys who always watch. I know my page isn't the most popular, but if you guys enjoy it, share it. You know, tell your friends. I think that we got something we can bring to the table through our little, you know, garage style setup, which is how I like it. This is how I've always done it. So thanks, guys.